And then Wednesday is show time to talk about your services. I like to think I have clear diction, but I can't tell you the number of times I've traveled all across Canada, said the exact same thing, and it's hard to, I think they're just trying to yank my chain on this. At coffee break, you get all these people coming up at coffee break, and we're just chatting, and I say, okay, Mike, yeah, I get it. You send your marketing plan ahead of time. I say, no, you don't send your marketing plan ahead of time. Please listen to me. No, that's what Wednesday night is for. So please be careful about that. Any questions about the idea of testimonials or references or any type of recognition, or you could say about a track record of what type of sales volume you crank out? There's nothing wrong with that.
When's the best time to ask someone for a testimonial or recommendation?
Right after you put the transaction together and they're still in love with you.
Yeah, when they're happy.
When they're happy.
So not after they close and they're unpacking and
the offer's
No,
accepted.
they hate you then.
No.
When the offer's accepted.
No, they've gone on to other things at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what if you're fairly new and you don't have all these?
Yeah, that's a fair point. You see, the funny thing is the US, they actually have the arrogance of calling this thing a brag book. Imagine calling it a brag book. And sometimes when you're brand new, it's hard to brag about anything. The best thing I could suggest, with Doug's permission, is that as you build your little empire of victories and sales transactions under your belt, as you go along, ask for as many testimonials as you can, but in the meantime, it's a bit of an uphill battle where you don't have any pre-listing package to send in, because unless you can basically envelop yourself in the cloak of the royal we, we at Century 21 Infinity are proud of our market share and, with so many reps and all that, so you can have a nice paragraph describing that you are part of a powerful team until you build your own little personal credentials. Now, let me just cover a couple of things that are in a pre-listing package that should not be in a pre-listing package. There's a training program out there. I'm not going to mention its name, but maybe some of you have been exposed to this flawed advice. They say that in addition to award certificates and track record and all the testimonials, and I'll use this is a private meeting, so I'll use real life brand names. Okay, you're with Century 21 Infinity. This training program says, what you should include in your pre-listing package are letters of recruitment from Royal LePage and Remax, or whomever. And the twisted logic is, you're trying to show this consumer, this would-be decision maker, this would-be client, see how desirable I am as a real estate commodity. I'm not just in big demand with the public. All these other popular big brand names in our industry want me on board. See how desirable I am? Have any of you been exposed to that piece of advice in the past? You have heard it. Anybody else? Please disregard it for the lunacy that it is.
Just leaders tell us to do
Well,
that.
I don't want to mention names. Anybody with a marketing background will point out to you that's insanity. Okay, imagine, so my job is to help you make more money. Okay, here's the challenge with what I just told you about. Here's this consumer on the lip of taking action with Century 21. Already predisposed to, wouldn't have called if she had anything against the brand. Say, okay, I'm interested in talking to you. And just as she's about to take action with Century 21, pen in hand, about to sign, at the 11th hour, you bring out the colorful brand of these other companies saying, well, there's also this brand and that brand. I mean, what do you think? Stupidity. Now, to be fair, and here's the distinction, okay, and when they teach this, they don't make the distinction, but I'll make it for you. And I don't even like this, but I want to be fair about it. At the listing appointment, sitting at the table, while you're chatting with them, as you were mentioning, if they say, this is the consumer, they say, well, we're talking to you at Century 21, but we're also talking to Remax, and they actually allude to another brand. Then and only then, and I'm not crazy about this, but to be fair, you say, oh yeah, them? And you bring out a laminated recruiting letter with Remax right at the time and say, yeah, Remax, yeah, that brand, yeah, they've wanted me on board for years. Now you're in better hands with me. So if they allude and they float the name of a brand that's a competitor, and you want to bring out a visual piece of ammunition to slap that away, then it might be handy. But even this smacks of hucksterism. Hard-nosed, snake oil salesmanship. Not a big fan. You understand the distinction though?
But if you're commenting that their decision to investigate Remax is a bad idea, are you not then insulting
No, I didn't say that,
them?
Bill. I didn't say that.
Fox eat snakes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Along this idea, another idea is people say in the to be interviewing other people. Why would I suggest to them to interview other people if I don't know whether they're interviewing other people or not? Why would I use that idea?
Okay, now, we learn by doing, Aristotle was right. It's a good question, but just as a cautionary note to the group, I want to emphasize to you that 70% of selling is listening. And when we started back at a little after 10 o'clock, at least once, maybe twice, I painted the scenario of saying, the consumer calls in on a Monday saying, yeah, we're currently interviewing different brokerages, which is fine. So the scenario that I put forward for us to discuss, it was clearly stated by them, we're talking to other companies. So at that point, you wouldn't want to, in the discourse of chatting, say, well, by the way, are you talking to other companies? Because then you look incompetent as if you didn't hear what they said. So that's one thing. Now you're saying if they didn't happen to bring it up, and they're just saying everything, if Sally wanted to hear about your services, it's been argued for years. First of all, I think that if you say to them, well, may I ask, are you interviewing different companies? Any consumer with enough gray matter between their ears to have enough money in their pocket to own a piece of real estate in the first place, it's not as if it hasn't occurred to them to maybe get other opinions. Okay, so it's not as if it's going to be an aha revelation. Holy smokes, you're right, maybe we should talk to other people. But just to share so the group can benefit, if they didn't mention it or allude to it, what's the benefit of you asking that question? Why are you even asking it? Like, why would you ask it?
The point is to find out if.
Find out if you're up against anybody?
But I guess, yeah, there would be no point in asking that.
Well, then I think we have our answer.
Well,
Yeah.
we talked about staggering ourselves at the beginning, so there is a point, right? Because you want to know if they're going to be interviewing other people. I want to be the first one in there.
Yeah, you like to be able to clarify about it. If there's a hint of other people being interviewed, you'd like to jockey for first. That's not of paramount importance. It's nice if you can manage to go first if you think you've got a good story to tell. So if the fine line of the gray area is if they hint or there's an implication of it, you say, so may I ask, what, are you interviewing other realtors? They say, yeah, we're talking to a couple. Don't make the mistake, or may I ask who they are. Never ask who they are. You know why? Because you're the best realtor in the market. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant as to who they are. And it's not going to change the fabric of the canvas if you ask who they are. What, if suddenly you hear a certain name, you're going to try to do a better job, you should be doing your best foot forward in the first place. And also, it hints of weakness that, oh, well, John Brown coming over, well, then I don't know if I want to meet with you. So no, you look weak in comparison. It shouldn't really matter to you as to who they're talking to. And the odds are more than likely they're going to talk to at least a couple of agents. So with the vibe, as you're over the phone, if you get a hint that it makes sense to clarify, say, are you talking to the realtors, you may ask the question. It's just, it's kind of a weak little scenario where it doesn't seem to accomplish much, that's all.
I just look at it that whatever it is that caused them to call me in the first place, they've seen some level of confidence, and I need to continue
Building
with
on
that
that.
projection of confidence. So I don't care if there's other people coming in, because you're gonna pick me anyway.
Yeah, that's the attitude or the mindset of the ideology of it, without being bold or some loud proclamation or being arrogant or cocky about it. There's a sincere, quiet belief that you are the best real estate person in the area, whether you're fairly new or not, that given the opportunity, I'm going to provide quality service with a capital Q, capital S. I'm going to move mountains to get you top dollar compared to the services even of so-called veterans. So this is the tone of what you're putting forward. Now, back to the pre-listing package. Here's the second thing that does not go in a pre-listing package. We had a realtor about 11 years ago out in Vancouver, good agent too, she should have known better. This is 11 years ago where she did it the old school way where the call comes in, she's meeting with them 2 days later. Gee, I'm gonna drop a package off in your mailbox, and she had a nice laser printed color copy, little booklet, Sturlocks bound, of all her awards, certificates, credentials, testimonials. But on the back page, the last page of the booklet of her pre-listing package, after all the other paraphernalia, she had a family portrait. I guess they used it at the holidays in December. But it had a picture of her, the realtor, with her spouse, the 2.5 kids, the dog, in front of the fireplace, all smiling and waving madly for the camera. So it was obviously a family portrait. So she had all this business-like credentials for corroborating who she was as a real estate entity. And on the last page, her punchline was, that family picture in bold font at the bottom as a punchline to the booklet is, the reason I work so hard for you is to provide for my family. The reason I work so hard for you, my clients, is to provide for my family. Now, in all fairness, what was she trying to do by putting there at the end? Sending it to people she had never met before.
I'm just like you.
Yeah, humanize me, I'm a flesh and blood, human being, motivated, I'm gonna work hard on your behalf. The blunt truth is, and I'm overstating it to make a point, ladies and gentlemen, we get so accustomed to being in the real estate industry, but the average consumers who see it from the outside, it's a bit of a strange mixture to them. They don't know a lot about it. And when they finally go to sell their biggest asset, the biggest nest egg they own in their lifetime, they want to get top dollar, reasonable time frame, fewest headaches. And they're only doing this 3 times maybe in their life, so they're practically vibrating. They're so stressed out and charged up about it. When they go to pick a realtor in our service industry, in effect, they want to retain the services of a wound-up robot automaton that once given the go-ahead, they sign the legalese, that you go out the door and like a robot automaton, you spend 25 hours a day, 8 days a week on the task at hand. As soon as you get the MLS sign and you walk in the door and the door closes, every waking moment that you're out of their eyesight, they just assume, well, she must be busy selling our house. Don't ever flag them to the fact that family, a dog, are you kidding me? Now I'll get to this. There are rapport building exercises, but don't send them ahead of time a picture that family and the dog, because right away the subconscious implication is, well, how many times a day does she have to walk that thing? That's taking away from valuable time about selling our house. They might allow you begrudgingly as an automaton to go back to your cubicle at night while selling the property, click the off switch, recharge, pour a quart of oil down your throat to loop the gears back to the campaign the next day. But don't flag them that you actually enjoy skiing and dogs and all the rest of it. Now, don't get me wrong, if you get over there to the house and in the den, or they've got an Irish setter, and you love that breed and all that, and great rapport, or they've got pictures of them skiing, you're an avid skier, great for building rapport and humanizing the whole thing. But don't put anything like that in your pre-listing package. You're not doing yourself any favors. The one exception, outside of the pre-listing package, I don't know if you ever get to downtown Toronto, and you drive up Avenue Road, up through Forest Hill, and to this day, pardon me, to this day, there's a little bench where the buses stop, and you've got the realtors, the older realtors, they're so old I think Latin is their native tongue, where they're just smiling for the camera, and they got their little Yorkshire Terrier up by their face, and they got a bouffant hairstyle. I know, but it doesn't matter if you put it on a bench, but don't put it in your pre-listing package. You're not doing yourself any favors. Imagine if your doctor, lawyer, dentist even hinted about, yeah, come on over, I'll look at your root canal. See my dog? Yeah. Okay, now. You do the research, and for you newbies in the room, if you get the call on Monday and then Wednesday is showtime, in your zeal, you might do a quick little CMA Monday night, but a cautionary note, if you've done a quick little CMA, then by Wednesday, late afternoon, just on the lip of going on the face-to-face appointment, please have the wherewithal to do an updated CMA, because 36, 48 hours is a lifetime in our business. Who knows what's been broker loaded? You don't want to walk in with a 1 or 2 day old stale dated CMA on Wednesday at 7 o'clock. They say, well, sign went up this afternoon at 5 o'clock. What's this one asking you there? Oh. Now, the other thing is, if anything has come up for sale, even in the last day or two, don't just go by virtual tour or what's on MLS. Yes, even in 2018, if you didn't go through the house already, book an appointment, take 10, 15 minutes and go through that property that's 5 doors up, that the sign went up in the last couple of days. You are perceived as a consummate professional. You work the area. Obviously, you see every piece of real estate out there. It's got to be that when you walk in on the appointment at 7 o'clock, you say, well, the sign went up yesterday. Have you seen it? And instead of telling a white lie, where you say, yes, I've seen it, but you're going by memory of what's on virtual tour, no, they'll know with their gut instinct that you're telling a bald-faced lie, which is not a good beginning. Take 10, 15 minutes and walk through this other piece of real estate, because mainly if you want to talk knowledgeably about it, ladies and gentlemen, they're yet to invent a technology to tell you if there's cat smell in a house. So actually, just go there and walk through and see, yes, I've been through it. So the intonation is, of course, I'm the neighborhood professional. I see every piece of real estate that comes out. So yes, I have seen. Then you can talk knowledgeably about it. Okay? So you've seen all the current competition. You've got a fresh, up-to-date CMA. While you've gone by to do that, take a nice colored digital shot so you can have it on your material that you're going to show them at the presentation. You emailed them, of course, all the information that they've had a chance to review. Any questions about us getting on to Wednesday at 7 o'clock for showtime? Please show up on time. I know that sounds self-evident. It's amazing how many realtors knock at the door 5 minutes early or 7 minutes late. People watch for things like that. Just looking around. Anybody have any type of a briefcase or an attaché case there? No? May I borrow that black case, or is that attached?
No, no, you can borrow it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I promise to be careful with it. Thank you. The gentleman's been kind enough to let me just borrow this for a minute. Please, for the rest of your real estate career, don't ever show up on a residential resale listing presentation appointment carrying anything of this size. I know we're in business, so a lot of you might have an attaché briefcase. Don't ever go on your listing presentation appointment with an attaché or a valise of this size. Because even though you have good intentions, the studies show that if you ring the doorbell, and here's what the top realtors do. Okay, condos could be different because you're ringing from down below, but it's a typical detached residence. You've never met these people before. You show up at 7 o'clock on the button. Okay, people ask about dress smart casual. When in doubt, be overdressed compared to underdressed. Ring the doorbell or knock at the door. As soon as the top agent rings or knocks at the door, they take half a step back. They turn 3/4 profile with detached body language as if the agent is just admiring the vista of how lovely the aesthetics of the neighborhood are. That's what you do. If you're meeting these people for this first critical moment, you don't want to ring the doorbell. That first magic moment when they meet you and you're just a shade too close to them face to face, and you say, hey, how are you? No, it's very awkward. It turns them off psychologically. So you ring the doorbell, take half a step back, turn 3/4 profile. And the reason you don't carry something of this size is that you have good intentions, but when they open the door and they're meeting you for that first moment, when they see that the real estate agent is carrying anything of this size, right away it frightens the hell out of them because the consumer thinks, it looks like a steamer trunk. It looks like you've come to stay for 3 days. I mean, they think, what am I watching, a vacuum cleaning demonstration? I mean, how long is she going to be here? I don't like this. So no, you don't carry anything of this size. Okay, what you would do, thank you. May I just borrow your little black? Be careful. This is the size of what you show up at the listing appointment with. Any type of carrying case, a little leather flap. Do you not find with a tablet, laptop, any paraphernalia materials, do you not find that this would be about all you need really for this day and age? So, the neuro-linguistic programming of it, just to nail this down to be exact. You show up, smart casual, 7 o'clock on the button, ring the doorbell, you take half step back, and you stand 3/4 profile as if the reason you work this area is because you're just so in love with how it looks aesthetically. You're holding this little carrying case down to the side of your body, unobtrusive, non-threatening for the body stance. Don't hold it out in front like Tom Brown's School Days. Don't tuck it behind your back as if there's an agenda that you're trying to hide something. Just have it unobtrusively tucked down the side of your body, smile, introduce yourself. You step in, okay? Thank you. Now, whether asked to or not, I like the habit of you just take the shoes off and let you figure in your little meeting and looking around through the property. You're going to go around through the backyard to the back part. You need to keep your shoes on. Just show respect to the property. Take the shoes off. They smile and say, yeah, come on in. So as soon as you walk in and you're exchanging social niceties, you know that, don't you find your experience that they want to take you on a tour around through the house. And you know after taking a tour through the property, you want to come full circle and sit where to conduct your listing presentation at the You want to sit at the kitchen table. Why? Strangers and acquaintances sit at the dining room table, friends and family sit at the kitchen table. Human nature being what it is, even with ethnic considerations being factored in, the typical family unit tend to have all their dramatic, really serious discussions at the kitchen table over tea, juice, coffee, water. Big life issues are discussed at the kitchen table. Therefore, the kitchen table is a safe island. That, out of habit and conditioning, is where they're well accustomed to having heavy-duty discussion. That's where you want to conduct it, because then they instinctively feel as if they're masterfully in control. And they're well accustomed to making decisions at that table. So if you're about to go on the cook's tour of around through the house, how can you maximize the chances of coming back and doing the presentation at the table? What you do is you take your carrying valise, like I just handed back. You say, oh yes, please show me around. And as you're about to go on the cook's tour, you just walk through the kitchen and you just plunk your binder or case down. Don't ask, say, may I put it here? You just plunk it down on the kitchen table to now go on the tour, thereby hinting or implying, I assume that after we walk through the house, this is where we're going to sit. Now, what do you do, though, if you walk through the kitchen to plunk your carrying case down to go on the tour, and by chance the kitchen table is cluttered with dishes and glasses? I mean, what do? Do you pull a Jack Nicholson? Well, you might have to sit somewhere else, but no, you plunk your case down there, hopefully you can just sit at the kitchen table and you walk around. Now, as you're walking around through the property, I know we all have our electronic devices. But I'd recommend, yes, even in September 2018, here's what some top realtors do. They just take a little paper notebook, and as they're walking around, they just take copious notes and ask a whole bunch of questions. So what kind of questions could you ask about what's not readily visibly apparent, or other questions? What would be a random little list of things you'd be asking them about?
Updates.
Okay, any updates that you can, flag me to that we can't it's not readily apparent? So
Timeframe.
insulation or wiring, yeah.
Timeframe of the updates?
Time frame?
Of the updates.
Yeah, or the time frame when they were put in for the updates, absolutely.
I'd like to ask them what made them buy this house.
That's a classic where you say, we find human nature, a lot of people, the next buyer come along will like for the same reasons that you bought it 7 years ago. Ask, what was it out of any properties you looked at? What was it that talked to you, that you saw in this property that jumped out at you? So that's a nice way to build a rapport with them. They say, oh, she's really good because she's looking for the same beneficial angle to push on the next buyer willing to pay the most money. I like that one.
Including like kids' names and stuff, or is
Sorry?
that kids' names and stuff, or is that creepy? Like, are you trying to have looked over?
It's borderline.
I mean, for being able to refer back to stuff later.
You could. I'm just teasing. I thought you were hinting for a minute. Do the kids stay with the house? Okay, yeah.
Are you selling little Annie?
That's right. Now, you're asking the different questions, time frame when you'd like to be moved by, okay, any improvements that we can't see that you could just point out to me. But here's the interesting part. The reason you've got a notepad and not an electronic device is that if you're asking a bunch of questions about the property and showing, as somebody mentioned, sincere interest and intent about what's going on and taking copious notes like an investigative reporter, the number of times in the last 10 years in the real estate associations, in focus groups and in debriefings, they said, well, okay, maybe ask Mr. and Mrs. Smith, why'd you go with this guy compared to the other 2 or 3 that you talked to? And they always, the general theme was, well, the others just walked through, nodded their head, didn't seem to really give a hoot about the property. He was truly interested in the property. He asked all these questions. He seemed sincerely interested in the process. He truly seemed to care about our property, close cousin of what you just did. And he seemed to really be focused on what was important to us. So this is where you're taking all your notes. Now, have you ever experienced where you get back to one particular room, maybe at the back, it's the baby room, the back mud room, or the walkway, and at some point through the tour, the consumers, the homeowners might ask you a little bit of aesthetic advice for staging, or they say, gee, we were thinking of painting the babies, we were going to repaint the baby's room. We thought that might help. Or the back walkway there's a bit of a ripped screen door for that back walkout. We thought, of course, we're going to fix the screen door. What do you think? And they asked about some minor cosmetic thing. There's an old legendary trainer named Floyd Wickman. He's long retired. Met him a few times. Charismatic, charming fellow. He's a U.S. sales trainer, but he has a great 2-word answer. If you are walking around on a listing appointment and they ask about some minor cosmetic issue, Floyd Wickman says there's a great 2-word answer that does a great job of building rapport with the decision maker. Does anybody happen to know what the 2-word answer is?
Fix it?
Fix it? Now I'm looking for something a bit more warm and fuzzy.
You're right.
Okay, that's good. Okay, everybody with me? You understand the question? You're walking around, taking the tour. They say, you're standing in the doorway of the baby's room. They say, well, it looks a little dingy. We were thinking about maybe repainting the baby's room.
Why not?
Good idea.
Good idea.
Why not? Good idea. These are all reasonable. What do you hear this one? Wickman says, you're standing at the doorway. You're the expert. They say, we were thinking about repainting the baby's room. You go, you look around and you just nod judiciously. You go, I would. You don't say, I would. You go, in a half whisper, little utterance. You go, yeah. You're not empathetic. You go, I would. Okay? Now, if you're thinking, gee, are you alienating the one of the spouses that didn't think maybe they want to do it, that's why they're debating it, it doesn't work that way. You say, I would. They love you for it. And after you walk out that evening, hopefully with the listing, as soon as the door closes, the one spouse turns to the other and says, see, she's good. She agreed about the baby's room. So now this is for a minor $200 issue. If they say to you at any point, well, we were thinking for purpose of selling, we're going to add an $80,000 extension to the back of the house, then we'll put it on the market. What do you think? You say, no, I would.
I would.
Yeah.
And a pool.
Yeah, just what we
With a
need.
sauna.
That's what we need, a pool.
And a hot tub.
Now,
Yeah. Finish the basement, the man cave.
here is what you've got up on that screen, although it's a little hard to see it from where some of you are sitting. So here is a printout of it. Just pass it along. Okay. There you go. has one? Okay. Now for our discussion, we're not going to underestimate the competition. This is an example of a full-service business model where you want to go through this presentation, giving an effective overview, painting benefit pictures, getting them into agreement with you, and then closing and asking for the order. So here are a couple of cautionary notes. For the rest of your real estate career, whenever you go on a residential resale listing appointment, please, the entire time you're at the residence, please refrain from using the word listing. Don't ever use the word listing while you're on a listing appointment. And I'll make it clear why. You see, before you came over, and they're interviewing 2 or 3 realtors, you know what the partners have done? They've turned each other just on the lip of 7 o'clock and say, okay, she'll be here any minute, honey. And look at these realtors are really pushy. They're aggressive. We'll just pick her brains and listen to what she has to say. But whatever she tells us tonight, we're not going to list. Oh no, we're not going to list. But we'll hear what she has to say. So they coach each other this way. You either walk in, be perfection personified, walk on water, and at the last moment say, shall we complete the listing? They got that in their back and something to say. You're not getting that. So take the word listing and exercise it from your vocabulary in that environment. The other cautionary note is, please, the whole time you're at that property, and you're going through your services saying, here's how we're going to get top dollar for your property, how we're going to get maximum value for your house. House property. Don't ever say the word home. If you ever look at a consumer who's lived there for 11 years, someone's home is their safe island, their home and hearth, safe island where it's warm fuzzies, they feel secure and protected. If you say to them intellectually, consciously, here's how we're going to sell your home for top dollar, they know intellectually the home is a piece of real estate, but all they hear on their subconscious value belief system, what, my home, it's being torn at the fabric of it, I'm being displaced from my home. They find that very upsetting emotionally. So don't ever say, here's how we're going to sell your home for top dollar. Say, here's how we're going to sell your property for top dollar. Oh, property, well that's logical, that's business-like. Now don't get me wrong, you don't use the word home with the sellers on a listing appointment. The next afternoon, when you're meeting with a first-time buyer, that's what you say to a first-time buyer, here's how we're going to find you the perfect home. Oh. Please don't do the kissing part.
That's
We're going to find you the perfect home. Thank you for calling Me Too Realty. Okay. Yeah.
So you've been out with Doug on some of his appointments?
That's right.
Yeah, why didn't you choose?
I heard all about you, Doug, before we ever met. Good for you.
Just stories.
That's right. I know I'm rolling along, but I'm trying to cram a lot into 2 hours, but let's just take a moment. Are we all on the same page so far? I wouldn't want to steamroll over anybody. You're all with the same great company. By the way, just to give a sincere compliment, Doug deserves a big hand, because I'll tell you, to arrange this type of training, which in this day and age, you're in such a supportive, nurturing environment, it's very rare where a broker of record would pay the money he's paying to have a top trainer come in and help rally the troops. So I think he deserves a hand on this.
There's some kisses.
See how it's a close cousin?
Yeah.
Now, I never get false praise. It's wonderful that you're in such a supportive, nurturing environment. Now, it's a question of how you're going to paint the benefit picture of these different services. You sit down, and we've been describing this scenario as, say, 2 partners, husband and wife, John and Mary Henderson. Could be a sole owner, but in this case, just to illustrate it, it's husband and wife own the property. When you sit down, you want to do a visual showcase. It'll probably be on a tablet, a laptop, where you're going to be showing them a nice color. This is just clip art, but you'd actually have the beautiful color picture of their bungalow right there in the middle. These titles may not necessarily be evident at this point, and then you're saying, here's how we're going to get top dollar for your property, here's our marketing plan, and it should just tap the mouse, the PowerPoint, it just pops up for each title. Now, I've got to stress, before we get into the meat of this, please don't underestimate what you're looking at. This is brilliant in its simplicity. Anybody who's been in real estate long enough may remember back in the 80s into the 90s, we had this big book, like a pop-up book, where you'd sit a leather book up on an easel, and you'd flip page after page of this array of data and information. And that's all we had at the time to work with, but it did everybody a horrible disservice, because they're the decision makers trying to pay rapt attention and listen carefully, but between hearing what you're saying verbally and trying to see this blur of data and stats and information, It was overkill, and they became emotionally detached, and they tried to be polite and nod dutifully, but they weren't absorbing what you were telling them. So to have it on one page, where you have a nice colored picture of their bungalow, marketing plan for their personal property. So this is not a generic plan. On your little tablet, it'll say marketing plan for 36 Bexhill. Your name in the corner. There's the beautiful picture of the bungalow on Bexhill. And they say, here's how our marketing plan to get you top dollar. And as you tap it, each service title pops up. Also, I can assure you, unless they took the training, all of your local competitors, when they show the same full service business model, they're going to show a shopping list, just a shopping list. No, you're going to show the house, and at the end of the 18-20 minutes, every title is encircling it, and the lines, I would have it, your graphic artist make the lines yellow in connotation, so that at the end, there's their house with rays of sunshine emanating from it, and at the end, the visual connotation is, this is maximum exposure. By the titles encircling the property visually 360 degrees, the implication is, this is how we get maximum exposure. Far more persuasive psychologically than just a shopping list. Please don't underestimate what I just told you. I've trained this all across Canada, and I'll tell you, out on the West Coast, where some of them haven't seen this before, some of the top people make $800, $1 million a year. They were drooling at the mouth when they heard about the connotation of the titles around the image of the property compared to the way they always had just a shopping list of services. This is far more persuasive. This just is black and white just for the sake of in classroom. So, why are you showing them something visual? Why is it so important to show them visual compared to just verbally rattling off your services? I know it's a simple question. What would be the simple answer?
Sticks in their mind better,
And why would it stick in their mind better?
because it's visual.
Because you
People
see
are
the
in
house.
pictures.
Okay.
You see the house and feel like, oh.
And they feel as if they're engaged in it, and it engages two senses compared to
Yeah.
one. And here's what happens. I know newspapers are a dying medium. Too bad. I enjoy reading 2 newspapers a day. My whole adult life, it's great. But they are dying. They are a dying medium. But let's say, just to illustrate this morning, if you're old school, whether it's on your tablet or whether it's papers dropped at the front door, before coming here today, let's say you get the Toronto Star, you get the Globe and Mail. So this morning over your tea, juice, coffee, you're reviewing the banner headline of the Globe and Mail before coming here. As you read the banner headline of the Globe and Mail, what does your value belief system tell you, even on a subtle, profound level? You read that banner headline and you think to yourself instinctively, well, if it's in black and white, it's probably true. Doesn't mean it has to be true, but you're predisposed to lean towards it being true. You're thinking instinctively on your value belief system. If some publication of some renown has looked at a subject and vetted it, and been willing to take the daring courage to put it in print and pronounce this is the story, it's probably been corroborated that it is true.